On November 30th, we left Grand Rapids to fly to Atlanta and then to Seoul, Incheon, and airport, where we saw a group of Koreans welcoming us in their costume. It was a long trip, and we arrived the next day at night, a little bit tired, but happy to be in Hanoi. The next day, we got up and walked a little bit around the hotel to get a feeling where the hotel was, a lovely hotel, located at the edge of the lake, which occupies the most important part of the city. The hotel, the Intercontinental, was very beautiful, but I must say that the surrounding areas of the hotel were not so. Since it was Sunday, there were people fishing and lots of brides being photographed in the beautiful surrounding of our hotel. Since it was Sunday, after walking around the hotel, we decided to attend Mass at the Cathedral Sacré-Cœur that was built at the beginning of last century by the French. The church in Vietnamese was very interesting since it was full of people, many of them children, very beautifully dressed, and they were active participants of the ceremony. The people are very clean. The surroundings may not be so, but I was amazed to hear that no matter old and young, they were very beautifully dressed. Evening, our tour guide picked us up to take us to a theater in the middle of the town where we saw the water puppies. Very interesting. The puppies moved on the water with the music and told a story, a very traditional Vietnamese story. The next day, we were picked up early in the morning to go to see a pagoda in the outskirts of the city. We stopped in arts and crafts place where many young people handicapped by Agent Orange were working. The tour seemed very interesting, and it started with bad weather. We had to go in a very small boat where a lady rowed us for 1.5 hours to this place where we were going to see the pagoda. The facilities were, needless to say, less than minimal because there was no dog, it was raining, it was slippery. We stopped and ate in a restaurant that housed, a couple of hundreds of people. And then we walked up a few steps to the pagoda, which was nice, colorful, but we have seen already so many pagodas that this did not add any to to our information. But we both, Luis and I, felt that we had done enough. The weather was so bad that we forgot the rest of the tour that was supposed to take us in a cable car to a mountain, I don't know, to see what. It was a long trip home. Fortunately, it stopped raining, so it wasn't so bad. The next day, we were supposed to go and meet the rest of our group that had planned an early trip to visit the most important sites in the city. They were a very, very interesting group, about 27 people, a bit more than what I expected, and we had a Vietnamese tour guide, twin, that was proved to be very, very interesting and very well informed and very, very pleasant to be for the next 2 weeks. Our first stop was the mausoleum of Ho Chi Minh, that is considered the father of the city. Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum reminded me very much of the one of Stalin. He's also embalmed. We could not take pictures, but it was interesting to see the devotion and of the people for his work. He died in 1969, and it wasn't until 1975 that the Vietnam got reunited.
For the Vietnamese, Ho Chi Minh was the father of the country, at the difference of Lenin in Russia, that was a political figure. He was a very modest man who lived in modest environment, very close to his people, and he never betrayed the condition that he was really the father of the country. You can see his house, interesting, didn't have a bathroom. He had to go down from the house to go to an outhouse that was separated from the facility, even when he was the leader of the new country.
We continue our drive through the European part of the city, the French borders, and we pass the one pillar pagoda that was built, of course, not on the first concrete, which is now, but it stands in the middle, and it's very, very well attended by lots of not only tourists, but local people. We continue our tour to the Temple of Literature, founded in 1070 and dedicated to Confucius, that is today the University of Vietnam, where there were many young students celebrating the end of the year. Beautifully dressed and very happy to photograph with some good-looking foreigners.
We were traveling, we saw a wall likely of about 4 miles, that were all sculptures done by a modern Vietnamese artist. And also in our visit, we visit the American ambassador in a very modest American embassy building that you will see now.
Was Hanoi Hilton, that was a very, very famous prison used by the Vietnamese to house the American prisoners. It was a very old place built by the French, used by them, and that today, of course, is not as huge as it was, and only a couple of wings are kept for museum. The rest has been redeveloped into very, very beautiful new shopping malls.
It's hard to accept in our modern time the cruelty that the French colonists used in Vietnam. And you understand why the hard resentment of these people that had to suffer 100 years. As you can see in the Hanoi Hilton, in a little garden, are these figures in which it's interesting they don't show the Americans doing all these things, but the French, because after all, we were just a few years in Vietnam. You can see the torture, even the guillotine, that almost unacceptable in our times. And you can see in the figures the enormous impact that has done that cruelty of almost 100 years of French domination. The Spartan, where the American prisoners were, and also you can see the picture of John McCain, the past candidate to the presidency, when he was captured, when his plane fell in Hanoi and was badly wounded and being treated in the hospital.
After visiting the prison, which was a very depressing environment, we continue our drive and then walk through what they call the 36 street districts, where there are streets full of shops in which each street has a different specialty. Shoes, bags, I mean, millions and millions of pieces of merchandise, not all very good, but very colorful and very, very cheap. The Vietnamese live in the streets. The houses are very small and of course it's rather warm, so they get up and have breakfast, lunch, dinner, have their feet done, have the hair cut, everything in the streets. There's no place for loneliness. We also stopped for lunch in a very, very big restaurant where we could eat from different stands, and could try all of the Vietnamese food. Some was better than others. We ate a lot of Vietnamese food during our trip.